Otherwise, phones are locked up. And no phones are
Lock them
allowed in
up.
primary school. No phones and no Apple Watches.
Welcome back to Teacher Tales, where we give you the keys to overcoming teacher burnout to find work-life balance and educational bliss if it still exists. I'm your host, Tony Rambles, and this is part 2 of Teaching Abroad with Dawn. On this episode, we continue the conversation and we cover how Italy's no phone policy is a game changer. And we learn some creative and compassionate discipline strategies that keep students from all walks of life engaged and respectful.
So,
Wow, that's
one of the
good.
biggest things in education here is, at least in my experiences in school that I work at, and discipline is a big deal. Right now, teachers feel like they're teaching with a hand tied behind their back because they want to, I don't know, a kid does something and they feel like the discipline should be an 8, but the kid only gets 4. So now the teacher feels like, oh, these kids can do whatever they want. Um, I personally have my own thoughts about how discipline and all of that stuff kind of works, but how does discipline work over there? You know, when somebody gets in trouble, and how much can a teacher do, and then how much is kind of taken out of your hands by the ministry or your school?
Okay. Well, firstly, we don't use corporal punishment of any kind here.
We don't either.
One thing I do to help diffuse the situation, I think,
Ooh,
if I catch students like talking too much or behaving in a way that they're not supposed to, um, and they're very capable of not behaving that way. I'm not talking about my students on the spectrum or anybody with neurodivergency.
right.
Just a average Jane and Joe, let's say. Um, I have a name for them, and it's an
Mm.
endearment. It's not anything bad. I call them broccoloni, like broccolo, like a broccoli, like the vegetable.
Okay.
And it's like calling them a big broccoli, and it's an endearment. And I'll say, if you keep that up, I'm gonna eat you like a broccoloni. And they look at me and they say, oh, yes, actually, I'm a cupcake. Or they'll make a little joke and then they'll get quiet.
Mm.
And this for most of the time works quite well. I have had situations where maybe I've had more than one student with ADHD in one class, which is a lot to
Mhm.
deal with
Oh yeah.
without
Oh yeah.
support teachers. And that I would take each student, each of them quietly outside and just say, hey, can you help me out? Can you fill up my bottle of water for me? And just take a walk
Mm.
down the hall and come right back. Okay. I think you need to use up some energy. Or
Yes.
there's some lost and found, or one of the students who just has to move and move. If he doesn't move, he goes
Yes.
nuts. Um, and also he doesn't have a limitless amount of capacity to listen, for the
Right.
6 hours of lessons. So sometimes in my hour, once we've got the basic done and it's just a little bit of revision, he's one of my best students in class.
Yeah.
Near the classroom, we have each area of the school has what we call a bidella, who would be like the hall monitor. Usually like older
Hmm.
ladies or, even younger women. We don't have any men, just women. And they keep an eye on the bathrooms, they tidy up, and they keep an eye on the students when they're going out in the hallway and just making sure that nobody's getting into trouble.
Hmm.
So outside this one classroom, we kept the lost and found uniform shirts, like the sweatshirts of the lost that were all in
Hmm.
lost and found. And I would say to him, "You want to go tidy that up? You want to go fold those really quick for me?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm on it." And he would just get excited because he got to go do a task, and it wasn't just sitting in
Right.
class. It had nothing to do with the lesson, but it was that 5 minutes or 10 minutes that he needed just to spend energy without
Yes.
having to listen to anybody. He could sing, he could be in his own thoughts and do his own thing while he was folding these clothes. And I would say, okay, keep an eye on the tags. If you see any tags with names of your classmates, bring them to class, okay? Because somebody's missing something. And he would love this task, and it would be the one thing that would redirect him for the rest of the day. Just 5 or 10
Yes.
minutes out of the class, and he would be fine for the next 2 hours. It was great, And I think
Oh,
every teacher has this capability. Not all of them do it. Not all of them get there, but the majority, I would say, we all have that capability of seeing when somebody's in need, and we help them out when we can. So, discipline.
I love that. I love that.
The only time that usually when we have a situation with discipline, we try to go deeper and look further and understand, okay, why is this person behaving this way? Why is the student doing this? We have a student who's bullying, okay? I mean, really, just picking on other kids all the time for no reason. And she laughs about it like it's no big deal. So we're going deeper, and the class coordinator and the headmistress of the school and the vice headmistresses will set up a meeting with the parents and say, this is a behavior that has been going on since preschool. And usually there's a reason behind it. And once you understand the reason behind it, you can help them come up with a solution together. Sometimes I'll just say, hey, why don't you just come sit next to me today? I could use a helper, and sometimes just making them feel important and like, oh, I am liked or loved by somebody. That's all it takes, Every situation is different.
Yes.
We do come together as a team to discuss these situations. And if we need to reach out to the family to discuss, the idea of getting the social services involved, psychology involved, somebody specialized to help out in the situation,
Right.
we do that.
How receptive are the parents when you all do reach out? There is an issue, whether it's with a discipline or grades or whatever it may be. How receptive are the parents to working with you all as the teachers in the school?
That's a good question. Some parents are extremely receptive. Some of them come to us and say, we are seeing this. What do you guys see? Other parents are less receptive. And it's generally out of maybe a sense of shame or fear. If I pretend it's not there, maybe it won't be.
No.
It's just a phase.
Doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't work like that at all. Maybe it's just a phase. They'll grow out of it, or they can't be as bad as that other one, There are always those, or it's your fault. There are always those.
Oh, yeah.
I think that from my position, I have seen some students that definitely suffer, and I don't feel they get enough actual parental support in that. I mean, their parents love them. They love them to the end, but they are blind to the realism of what's happening. Okay.
Right. The real issues that they're actually
exactly.
having. How much help they may
she's just
be.
shy. They'll say. When I come across this, I had a student years ago that had selective mutism. It turned out, but for all of primary school, no, she's just shy. Well, the shyness was caused from selective mutism. She chose not to speak because she was suffering inside, She was
I
suffering
had a kid like
anxiety.
that.
Yeah. It's really tough.
And she just had her days.
Yeah.
And I would still talk to her. And I'm just like, I would just try to joke, like you said, kind of diffuse. Let's talk about something that's not even work related.
Yeah.
Let's just, it could be about anything. Some days it will work, and some days it wouldn't. So, two more things I want to touch on here.
Absolutely.
Technology. How does
I
technology, how is it integrated into your school? Are there phones, which is the bane of most teachers' existence at this point, at least in the States? Um,
No phones in
how do
class.
you all integrate?
No
Yes,
phones in
no
class. We
phones
have
ever.
we have a rule. No phones, even for teachers. I do use my phone in my classroom only when I have to do an audio. When I have when I'm using my book for the class, I have a link for an application. It's Ellie
I can
Link,
see.
and I have to take a photo of the page where it has the audio for that page, and it
Mm.
recognizes it through the application, and it plays the audio, and I hook this up to the speakers in the class, and they can hear the audio for that part of the
Wow, that
book.
sounds
Yeah.
cool.
Um, Also, if we have music, we have a projector in class. We all the teachers have computers. We have a computer lab for students. And in high school, I know that sometimes kids are allowed to use their phones if they're doing, like, if they're playing Kahoots or if they're doing another activity that
Mm-hmm.
involves using their phone. Middle school as well, but it's very rare for middle school. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's used more for art class or something like that. Um, Otherwise, phones are locked up. And no phones are
Lock
allowed
them
in
up.
primary school. No phones and no Apple Watches. Not allowed in primary
Good.
school because no teacher or student can make a video or take photos in class without express permission. So we're really big
Okay.
sticklers here in Italy. Privacy is different here than it is in the States. I know in the States, from what I
Ooh, how so?
understand, is that if you're in a public place, you can take a photo or video anybody or anything. Not here.
Yep.
You are not allowed to take a video or take a photograph of anybody here. You can't go up to a stranger on the street and start videotaping them or
Mm.
taking photos of them without their express permission. It's a law here.
Well, what happens?
You can get fined. You can be denounced to and have to go to court, and it's just better not
Yeah.
to. It's just better not to.
I wish we had that in schools because big thing
Yeah.
here, at least in the area that I work in, there are sometimes where not sometimes, a lot of times where there's a fight happening and kids are videoing and they're sharing it all over social media. There was an instance earlier this school year where some kids were drinking alcohol in the restroom
Oh,
and they were sharing it on social media. I'm like, are you guys just begging to get caught? Like, let's just think
for real.
logically here, right? You shouldn't have it on campus anyway. So I think if we had a rule like that where you can't photo people, you can't share stuff of people without their express consent,
Mm-hmm.
it would definitely deter some of the behaviors that we have. But
Mm-hmm.
I digress.
Mm-hmm.
So the last part that we're going to talk about, and the last part for all of us, is retirement.
Oh,
So
yes. Oh,
how
many
does
years to go.
retirement work there?
Okay. So, okay, well, wages. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it's different for each class level. Primary school makes a little bit less than middle school, which would be secondary school, and they make a little bit less than high school, and they make a little bit less than university. Um, but primary school full time teacher with what we call a contratto indeterminato, which means tenure, which means I have a
Mm.
contract for life if I don't screw up.
Yeah.
Okay, if I don't mess up, I'm good to go. So far, so good. And um, you start at about 1,200 net monthly. And
Oh.
if you work your entire career, you can even work up to about 1,900 a month net. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like after 30 years, if you retire after 30 years, um, your pension would be about 1,000 to 1,100 a month. That's
How does
about
that money translate? Because I'm thinking
euro.
$1,000 a month.
Don't think about dollars, okay? Because
Okay.
our economies are a little bit different, and it depends on where you live in the States,
Yes.
just as it might depend on where you live here. Um, a lot of times, people living in Italy will actually own their own home. They'll own their own apartment. Here, to have a villa, like a standalone house, is, you got to have either a lot of
Okay.
money or you live in the country where you can buy a home that doesn't cost very much. Otherwise, you
Got it.
have a condo, a flat, and that's what we have. And once you've paid off your mortgage, you only pay taxes, and taxes can range, like ours are about $800 a year, so it's not so bad. It's probably about $300 a month for food. Those
Mm.
things don't cost very much. Energy bills are lower than they are in the States, in my opinion. A pension for a married couple, between the two pensions, they can live comfortably off what they earn, what they get every month. Plus, I have we don't have like a 401k specifically, but we do have
Mm-hmm.
a fund that I will collect once I either retire from this position or retire as a teacher.
Like Social
And
Security.
no, this is private, and it accumulates every month. We don't have to have insurance here. We have national health care
Ooh.
here. So hospital stays are free, doctor visits are free. We only pay the tax for university. So my daughter will go to university next year, and she'll pay something like a couple hundred for the first semester.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
It's crazy.
I'm moving.
Yeah, it's. I mean, my niece went through medical school, and it was like 1,200 a year for medical school.
Gosh.
It's a
Wow.
whole nother ball game. It's a whole nother lifestyle. That's one of the reasons also why I chose to come here rather than my husband come to the States. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been easier for me to find year-round work here than it would for him as a gardener. Um, I wanted him to be closer to his parents, and B, I mean, the violence is there's almost no. I mean, there's violence, but not like it is in the States. We don't have to worry about having metal detectors at schools or anything like that. We don't have fist fights at schools. It's very rare for something like that to happen. I mean, very. In all the years I've been teaching, I have never seen a student become violent intentionally. I have students that are on the spectrum
Mm.
that, they have an outburst, but they're not trying
Right.
to
Right.
actually
Right.
hurt somebody. So, and we have a high school at our school too. And there are high schools all over the place.
Mm.
It's just not so common for that to happen. And when it does, it becomes national news. And so we hear about it. It's just rare. And it's just a different culture, you know.
Mm.
I think culturally speaking, like here, like in the States, you still hear about, there's like the racism and everything. We don't hear about that here so much. It's just not such a big thing. I mean, yes, there are those that are fascist or nationalist somewhere. But like they don't come out to you and say, go, it's more
Right.
in
Right.
their politics. It's just not it's not a polemic that has happened here. And I
Mm-hmm.
did have a parent, if I can just tell you this, I did have a parent to a couple that were from the States and were raising their family here for work.
Mm-hmm.
And um, at one point, we thought they were kind of trying to bring it over here, you know, because
Mm.
their kids suffered in the States, and they kind of tried to bring it into the classroom. We sat down with them and we said, that's just not an issue here. You don't have to worry about that. Your child is loved just as much as everybody else's. And we love you guys
Wow.
too, And then they calmed down. They were like, okay, this is going to be okay. Different
Mm.
country, different culture, different mindset, I guess.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's nice. For me, I'm really grateful.
So, if you were to give someone tips, say I wanted to move to Rome and be a teacher, how would I do it?
Okay. In fact, I'm doing the same thing for another person right now who wants to move to
Ooh.
Italy to be a teacher. Um, depending on make sure you have at least your bachelor's
Mm-hmm.
to teach. Master's is even better, but a bachelor's will
Almost
suffice.
done.
Excellent. Learn the language a bit. Study some courses at university or, in your community center, wherever they offer courses.
Mm-hmm.
Study the language. It's good to know at least how to, read the contract that you're going to sign eventually. It helps. I have a husband to help me, I'm married Italian. Um, it's also really good to understand the culture and study up on what grade do you want to teach. Do you want to teach university?
Mm.
Do you have the education to teach university? Do you want to teach primary? What level do you want to teach? And what is it that you want to teach? What's your subject?
Mm.
Because depending on your subject might depend on what you can teach. If you want to teach
Right.
English like I do, then you can pretty much teach anywhere. If you're not an Italian citizen and you're not married to an Italian citizen, you should have a visa. You need to apply for a visa to teach here, to work here. But that means you should, acquire within to get a teacher's job and explain that you want to come teach as an ESL teacher in this country, and I want to apply for a visa. You should have you should have some money saved up to show proof that you can already support yourself even before you start working,
Right.
and get that job, and that will help you get in the door. Yeah. And that's how it works.
Well, Dawn, thank you so much.
Thank
You've
you.
given us a wealth of knowledge here on teaching somewhere else that's not here. Before we leave, can you give advice to an experienced teacher and advice to a new teacher?
Okay. Advice to an experienced teacher. Life is too
Mm-hmm.
serious to be taken seriously. De-stress,
Ooh.
take a step back, remember to laugh with your students. Always find time to laugh with them because
Mm-hmm.
we get older, okay? And we start seeming less appealing or less interesting. So always mix up the lesson, come up with new ideas, make it as interactive as possible.
Mm.
Get them to use their creative juices in order to really prove and show off what they can do, and find their interest in that lesson. As for the new teacher, good luck. This is a life experience. Um, every day you're going to learn something new, and half of what you
Mm.
learn you're going to throw away, and the other half you're going to keep.
Mm.
You're going to find out what works best for you, which methods work best for you. Keep a strong voice in your class. You don't have to yell and shout, but you can learn how to use that sergeant's tone. Okay?
Yeah.
And come up with a nickname for your students that's silly, that makes them laugh. If you're working with primary school, maybe not with the older kids, but definitely with primary schoolers, get them to share something about themselves during the year, and you share something
Mm-hmm.
back in return. You don't have to become their friend, but they need to trust you because you're going to be
Yes.
giving them a lifetime of information in a very short amount of time. That's that.
Thank you all for listening to the episode today. Going Abroad with Dawn, which I love that title, was awesome. Just comparing and contrasting what it looks like to teach there and teach here. Of course, I'll have someone next week. We're going to talk about being a public servant and holding public office while being a teacher. You don't want to miss that. But before we get out of here, remember, strict technology policies can make a massive difference in school. including these prohibitions, smartwatches, so on and so forth, help to minimize distractions and maintain focus on learning. I will definitely be covering more on that topic in the future. Again, understanding and supporting our diverse students' needs is of the utmost importance, no matter if they have disabilities or not, if they have neurodivergent conditions or not. Tailoring our strategies to their needs significantly enhances their experience in the classroom. Lastly, parental engagement is necessary. No matter how much we want to avoid the parents, we need them to be on our side to help for the most smooth experience. Because you enjoyed what you heard from this episode, join our Facebook group, Teacher Triumphs, Overcoming Burnout and Balancing Life. This is where we share applicable strategies and encourage each other on the journey through education. Until next time, keep teaching, keep learning, and I will see you all on the next journey.